Good morning, children. Welcome back to the lesson Silk Road. We already had 3 sessions on this. Let us continue with the text. I hope all of you have gone through the text properly up to page number 78. Okay. Uh, Before we start, let us make an immediate recap of what we have already discussed and learned. It's all about Silk Road. That is the title. Silk Road is an account of travel to Manasarovar Lake in Tibet. Okay, the narrator was traveling to the lake to complete the Kora, that is a pilgrimage. He set off with Satan in his car. That is the introduction, right? And we have come across many other details like the difficulties that they faced while traveling through the mountain pass and the height and altitude. Okay, and his friend Daniel left him. Okay, then they reached a height of 5,400 meters. Okay, and they could find a plateau, a plain area where salt flats, where workmen loaded trucks laden with salt, that we have come across. And finally they reached a place called Hor. Okay, it's an old trade route from Lhasa to Kashmir, and the narrator found Hor bare and dirty, and it was at the shore of Lake Manasarovar, and actually venerated by Hindus and Buddhists. And the narrator had read much about the lake, but his own experience was not the same. Here we stopped, and now let us continue with the text. We are at page number 78. Yes, my own experience, Hor, came as a stark contrast to accounts I had read of earlier travelers' first encounters with the Lake Manasarovar. Ikai Kawaguchi, a Japanese monk who had arrived there in 1900, was so moved by the sanctity of the lake that he burst into tears. A couple of years later, the holy waters, had a similar effect on Sivan Hedin, a Swede who wasn't prone to sentimental outbursts. So, dear children, here is a contrast. What the author had read about Manasarovar is not matching when he reached the place. And he has given example of two other travelers who visited the place and their experience. It was actually a very holy place. The sanctity of the lake was much explained by Ekai Kawaguchi, a Japanese monk, right? The same way Sweden Hedin Swede also wrote about the Manasarovar. Okay, but others' experience is somewhat different. It was polluted actually by travelers, right? Now, it was dark by the time we finally left again, and after 10:30 p.m. we drew up outside a guest house in Darchen for what turned out to be another troubled night. Kicking around in the open air, rubbish dump that passed for the town of Hor had set off my cold once more, though if truth be told, it had never quite disappeared with my herbal tea. One of my nostrils was blocked again, and as I lay down to sleep, I wasn't convinced that the other would provide me with sufficient oxygen. My watch told me I was at 4,760 meters. It wasn't much higher than Rau, and there I had been gasping for oxygen several times every night. I had grown accustomed to these nocturnal disturbances by now, but they still scared me. So, dear children, now author and Satan has reached a place called Darchen. Okay, their author had some trouble, that is health issues. He could not sleep properly because of cold. He developed cold. Okay. Actually, that place is not very clean, rubbish dump, wastage you can see. Okay, everywhere they could find a rubbish dump, and they just passed to the place, and because of the dust or something, he developed a cold once again, and he was trying to avoid that cold with the help of herbal tea, but it did not work well. Okay, and one of his nostril was blocked properly, I mean totally, and he lied down so that the opposite direction, so that he felt that blocked nostril would be open, but he couldn't get sufficient oxygen. Okay, and actually he had the same issue when he was at Rahu, that the height was more than what is there at Darchan, but nowadays he was much accustomed, means used to, accustomed means used to this nocturnal, means related to night. Nocturnal means related to night, nocturnal disturbances. Whenever it is night, he faces this kind of trouble. Generally it happens for all. When you are suffering from cold, it increases when it becomes night. Okay, fine. Okay, now the next paragraph. Tired and hungry, I started breathing through my mouth. Finally, when the nostrils are not working, he started breathing through his mouth. After a while, I switched to single nostril power, which seemed to be admitting enough oxygen. But just as I was drifting off, means getting tired, drifting off, I woke up abruptly. He quickly woke up. Why? Because he could not breathe properly. Something was wrong. My chest felt strangely heavy, and I sat up. A moment that cleared my nasal passage almost instantly and relieved the feeling in my chest. Curious, I thought. Actually, while sleeping, he could not breathe properly because one of the nostril was stopped completely, and he was trying to breathe through that the remaining nostril and even through his mouth. But suddenly he felt a heavy feeling on his chest, so he woke up. I mean, sat up. Suddenly he could breathe properly, and the pain in the chest was relieved. Right. I lay back down and tried again, same result. But while he was sleeping, the same effect was there. So I was on the point of disappearing into the land of Nod when something told me not to. It must have been those emergency electrical impulses again, but this was not the same as on previous occasion. This time I wasn't gasping for breath. I was simply not allowed to go to sleep. Actually, because of that issue, I mean health issue, he was unable to sleep, and he was uh, gasping for breath also. Okay, that did not allow him to sleep, but it is not like the earlier experiences. He is feeling little sick. Sitting up once more immediately made me feel better. Means sitting gives him comfort. I could breathe freely and my chest felt fine. But as soon as I lay down, my sinuses, you know what is sinuses? That passage, I mean air passage opening into the nose. You can write down air passage opening into the nose. Sinuses. Some people will have problem with sinuses. Okay, doctor will suggest medicine for that. So air passage opening to the nose. Sinuses filled and my chest was odd, means strange. I tried propping, means supporting myself upright against the wall, but now I couldn't manage to relax enough to drop off to sleep. Okay, I couldn't put my finger on the reason. What do you mean by put my finger on? So this is an expression. Put my finger on means identify. He could not identify the reason, but I was okay. What is the meaning of put my finger on? Identify the reason, but I was afraid to go to sleep. A little voice inside me was saying that if I did, I might never wake up again, so I stayed awake all the night. Actually, sleeping, lying down is creating more trouble for him, whereas when he sit, things are normal. So finally he decided not to lie down. Otherwise, what would happen? He would not wake up again. That means he would die sometime. So he felt like keeping himself awake all the night. Okay, children. Now continue with the next paragraph. Sedan took me to Darchen Medical College the following morning. Next day, the driver, Satan took him to Darchen Medical College. The medical college at Darchen was new and looked like a monastery from the outside, with a very solid door that led into a large country yard. You see, that medical college is something like a monastery. Monastery means a place for the monk. Okay, like temple, like church, like mosque, monastery for the monk. Okay, so it is looking like a holy place, not like a medical college. We found the consulting room, which was dark and cold and occupied by a Tibetan doctor. There was a Tibetan doctor occupying the seat, who wore none of the paraphernalia. What is paraphernalia? Things required for a particular work. For example, paraphernalia for a doctor is, what is the paraphernalia for a doctor? Stethoscope, injection, syringe, okay, like that. Paraphernalia for a farmer, spade, hovels, pickaxe. So like that, paraphernalia, things required for a particular work. So the doctor who wore none of the paraphernalia that I had been expecting. Okay, the very moment when you go to a doctor, you can understand a person sitting with a stethoscope, right? No white coat. He looked like any other Tibetan with a thick pullover, and pullover means that jacket, overcoat and a woolly hat. When I explained my sleeplessness symptoms and my sudden aversion, what is aversion? Aversion means dislike of lying down, he shot me a few questions while feeling the veins in my wrist. Actually, he explained his symptoms, and the doctor was feeling his vein in the wrist, pulse. And while he was reading the pulse, the doctor asked a few questions. It is a cold, he said finally through Satan. Actually, narrator did not know that Tibetan language, and Satan could understand, and the message was conveyed through Satan. What was it? It was a cold and the effects of altitude. What is it? Altitude, the height from the sea level. Altitude, I will give you something for it. Okay, means I will give some medicine for it. Who said? Doctor said. I asked him if he thought I would recover enough to be able to do the Kora. Oh yes, he said, you will be fine. Actually, the only concern from the side of the narrator is whether he would be able to complete the Kora. Okay, but what was the answer? Yes, he could. I walked out of the medical college clutching a brown envelope stuffed with 15 screws of paper. I had a 5-day course of Tibetan medicine, which I started right away. I opened an after breakfast package and found it contained a brown powder that I had to take with hot water. It tasted just like cinnamon. What is cinnamon? All of you know. Cinnamon is a spice obtained from the bark of a tree. A spice obtained from the bark of a tree that we are using in biryani, pulao, okay, etc. All of you know. I don't know what you call in Kannada, cinnamon, chakke, something like that. I remember. Okay, it tasted just like cinnamon. The taste of the medicine. It was a brown powder wrapped in small package. It was to be taken after breakfast, and he had it in hot water. Okay, the contents of the lunch time and bedtime package were less obviously identifiable. Means it is very difficult to identify the medicine because it looks alike. Both contain small spherical brown pellets. And what is the shape of the medicine? Small, spherical means round, globe, like our earth, spherical, round brown pellets. They looked suspiciously like sheep dung, and for the author and for the narrator, it looked like sheep dung, the waste of a sheep dung. All of you have seen it. But of course, I means black round shaped. Okay, but of course I took them. Okay, anyway, no other go for the narrator. He had to take those medicine. That night, after my first full day's course, I slept very soundly like a log, not a dead man. So after consuming that medicine for an entire day, he was able to sleep. Okay, he slept very soundly like a log. Log means piece of wood, no movement will be there. Okay, like that. He is comparing his sleep like that of a log, not a dead man. Okay, children, let us continue with the text tomorrow, and let us stop here with his experience in Darchen. Okay, Darchen is an ugly place again, and he developed cold because of the polluted atmosphere there, and he was taken to a doctor, a Tibetan doctor, and the doctor never looked like a doctor because he was not wearing his coat, or there was no paraphernalia with him, but he suggested a few medicines after checking his health condition or reading his pulse, and according to the doctor it was a cold, nothing else. And the concern from the narrator is whether he would be able to complete the Quora. For that the doctor replied in the affirmative, and later he explained the medicines are wrapped in small paper, okay, brown color, which was tasting like that of cinnamon, and some of the tablets were in spherical, means form, I mean round form, round form, and it looked like that of a sheep dung. Okay, but after taking the medicine he felt relieved and he could sleep well. So children, thank you very much for listening to the class, and try to write down the important questions. Already that link is given to you, that is NCERT link. Okay, so through that you can have the questions and answers and write down in your notebook, and with one more session we will be completing the lesson, right? Thank you. Have a nice day ahead.